Hi, I'm Pearlstein, and this is 10 Questions. Well, my intention was never to become an acting coach. I was an actor. I always wanted to be an actor. For a time, I was a comedian, a singer in a band. I worked in casting and thought maybe I would become a casting director. I really never thought I would be a teacher. But I knew that I always wanted to move to New York and study acting, and life didn't really put that opportunity in front of me until my late 20s. So I moved to New York in my late 20s. I studied with the best people in the world, and I was so inspired by what I learned that when I came back 5 years later, I thought I would be able to take all of that knowledge and put it into my work and work as an actor. And I started going to auditions, and at the same time as I would bump into people, that I kind of used to know, I was telling them about this amazing education that I've had and all of this inspiration that I had. And then a few people would ask me if I would help them before they had an audition. And that sort of turned into me doing a workshop. So it was just me imparting, everything that I was taught to people that wouldn't have the opportunity to go there and do it for themselves. And I just had such a passion for the craft that it just kind of spiraled into a new career. And then I got so busy that I had to say goodbye to my agent and strictly focus on this part of my life. The advice that I would give anybody who's interested in becoming an actor would be, don't do it for the fame or the money. Only 1% of people will get to that point where they can really make a living doing it. And I think there's still a lot of people with stars in their eyes. And, my other piece of advice is if there's anything else that you love doing, even almost as much as you love acting, do it. Because there's going to be a lot of times where you're not making money and, you're doing everything else but the one thing you really want to do. And it can be really difficult. So I would say unless you believe that there's literally nothing else you can do that's ever going to satisfy you, don't do it. Don't do it. And I'm really honest with people about that. But I do believe that if you really have the drive, you will find a way to make it happen. And it may just, take on different shapes than the way you initially envisioned it. But yeah, not an easy road. The importance of a demo reel is really dependent on what you think you need it for and what material you actually have for it. I think when you're trying to get an agent, if you've done some really great professional short films and you've got some really good moments of you acting and it looks and sounds good, sure, why not? That might be helpful for an agent to sort of see where you fit in. But if you just grab a camera and are playing around with your friends, I think that could hurt you more than it could help you. And the best thing you could do would be to just learn a couple of scenes, something dramatic, something comedic, and just go into an agent's office and just make them excited about you based on that. Then, once you start getting some professional work, just to show a little bit of variety and versatility, then I think, that's when a demo could be really helpful. Just so casting directors can maybe start seeing you in a way that they hadn't really considered you before. The biggest mistake that actors make that I see when they're auditioning is doing the bare minimum. And I know it's difficult because sometimes you don't get the script until the night before, but when you're given this opportunity and there's 20, 30 other people going in and reading the same script, going that extra mile will be obvious to the casting directors, and really writing the backstory and really making some strong choices for your character, I think is the one thing that can ensure, even if you don't get the part, that they remember you and they bring you back for other things in the future. My advice to actors is always to not only read the lines, but read in between the lines. find those little moments, even if no one's speaking, where there's so much life happening. And listen. I feel like so many people are just waiting for their next line and they're not actually in the moment and taking in what they're getting from the other actor. And I also think they just don't see the value in creating the whole world, what was happening the moment before. And if you don't have that in the script, coming up with that backstory yourself. I feel like that depth of work is what makes for a really good, specific performance. If I could only pick two things to tell an actor to work on when they're taking on a new role, it would be, of course you need to know who you are, but I think knowing who you're talking to and how you feel about that person and really understanding the dynamics of the relationship can really help you solidify a lot about the story. I don't know if this is a misconception about theater versus film or television, or this is obvious, but I would say most theater actors tend to think that they need to overact and emote and indicate when they're doing film. With theater, you've got people in the back really far away, and so you really have to, give big. And with film, the camera's so close to you that if you're really in it and you're really feeling it, we're gonna see it. I would say maybe the only challenge of being an acting coach is I'm not one of those acting teachers that's really active on social media. I don't have a splashy website that says, I coach this person who got the role in this movie. I'm really not about the smoke and mirrors, I'm about the work. And I feel like there are a lot of people who, if the name of your studio doesn't have Academy in it, or you don't name drop all the people that you've worked with, or if your prices are reasonable, that may mean that you're not great. I think the people that know me and know my reputation don't care about those things. But I think when people who don't know me are doing the research, they may get caught up in, who looks like they're gonna make me into a star kind of thing. And that just sort of goes against everything that I believe in. I'm not sure if Canada's industry needs to do something different or just maybe do a lot more of what they've been doing. And when I say that, I mean supporting Canadian talent and Canadian productions. I feel like you have to move to the States and get work there in order for you to get those phone calls in Canada when something's shooting here. Now they want you to come back and work because you went to the States and made a name for yourself. I would just love Canada to start being more of a leader than a follower in the entertainment industry. Definitely the one that stands out the most would be Philip Seymour Hoffman. To have an opportunity to learn from your favorite actor in the whole wide world, it still kind of blows my mind sometimes. But I worked a bit for his theater company, and then he needed some help with his Canadian accent when he was shooting Owning Mahoney. So I was able to help him with that. And then I would ask him questions about a scene I was working on or his interpretation of a play. And then he would lend me a lot of his plays because I was a starving artist, so I couldn't afford to buy them myself. And I would see that in his scripts, for every line of dialogue, he had a personalization. And that was really that light bulb moment. That's what makes him extraordinary. And that's what separated him from everybody else, was that ability to make every moment real and come from a real place. And he was so generous with his time and his knowledge and his encouragement and just his love of acting and the craft. It was just inspiring on so many levels. And that's just, especially since he's passed. it's one of the greatest things for me to be able to share with students, because I think everyone thought he was so amazing. And once you sort of see why and the work that he did, it really seems to inspire other people to put in that extra work to be extraordinary and not just mediocre. And I think there's a lot of mediocre out there. So, you know, I aspire and I encourage my students to aspire to the greatness.